Hello, and welcome back to the world of Ryan J. Pitts Presents. I'm Elizabeth the Demon Queen Pitts.
And I'm Ryan J. Pitts, the Metal Master.
So, in our last couple of episodes, we have talked about just some of the art and custom designs and things that Ryan has created. Today, we wanted to do something a little different. We want to talk about a topic that we both feel is very important, needs to be discussed. And so today's topic is men's mental health, and specifically Men's Health Month, which is now June. June is officially Men's Health Month. Now, I originally thought it was Men's Mental Health Month. That's what I was seeing trending around social media. But it's actually Men's Health Month.
Men's health. Okay. Is there a men's mental health too, or is that blocked into?
I would say it's all blocked in together. Mental health is also tied in with health.
Absolutely.
So it's not men's mental health. It's just men's health overall, which includes mental health.
It starts there, I would say.
Yes, definitely. And it is something that men's mental health especially is in crisis in this country, and it needs to be talked about. We need to be having discussions about this.
This will be fun. Yes, I'm interested to hear the things that you're hearing, since you're more kind of absorbent of what's happening out there. And I long ago shut myself off to kind of news sources and other outside stimulus just for my mental health.
Well, I do tend to, I kind of want to stay up to date on what's happening. So I'm a bit of a thumb cocker, which is a phrase that was coined by our friend Joe Brammeyer over at Treadmill Heroes. The old thumb cock. Thanks, Joe.
Should we tell him what that is? So we were talking on Joe's podcast a month or so ago, and he was talking about the phone situation and how everybody's just always on their scrolling, and he called it thumb cocking. It was quite funny.
It's my favorite word now. So any chance I get to use the term thumb cocking,
right,
I'm gonna throw it in there. Okay, so let's talk about Men's Health Month. So I did a little research and I wanted to share it with you because I had never even heard of this until now. I was seeing people sharing things talking about Men's, Mental Health Month, and I was like, is that real? I've never heard of that. I thought maybe somebody just made it up and started saying it. No, this is a real thing. So Men's Health Month was signed into law. So it's official.
Okay.
It was signed into law in 1994 by Bill Clinton, the Clinton administration.
Nice.
The bill was introduced by Senator Bob Dole.
Oh, sure.
Yes, that guy. And he wanted to just kind of bring awareness to early detection and treatment of health conditions in men, especially men specific
prostate
diseases. Yes, like prostate cancer. So they wanted to be really adamant about men getting, early treatment and getting checked out.
Which it needs to be, because men just, known for, I don't want to go to the doctor, I'll walk it off. At least in my generation. So this is a whole topic of at that time, it was health probably related to those things hey, just go in and get a checkup. Come on. Don't be hard nosed. Don't be that man. Care about yourself, care about your health.
And that's kind of just the whole thing we want to talk about is, just caring about yourself. So I did a little more research. So men on average live 6 years less than women. Did you know this?
I knew there was a number. I didn't know what it was.
Well, according to some website that I looked at, it's 6 years.
Okay.
So women are living longer. Men are not. Now, men are living actually longer than they were originally when they originally signed this into law in 1994. Men are living longer now than they were then.
Early detection.
However, the numbers are still, they're not equal. So, and there are probably reasons for that.
Absolutely.
One of the leading causes, of course, as we all know, with that ties in with men's mental health, is death by suicide.
Oh.
And men are typically like 3 or 4 times more likely to commit suicide than women.
Okay.
And these are numbers that have been pretty, I think, consistent throughout U.S. history, is that they've been, keeping track of all of this. As men are killing themselves much more frequently than women. Of those men, white males account for 68% of the suicides that are happening, which
it's a huge number.
I thought was a massive number. And someone needs to help these guys.
Is there an age specific to those 68%?
Well, there were multiple, different age brackets and percentages. Some of the websites had conflicting information, which I thought was kind of weird, because I looked at the CDC's numbers and they suggested that men 75 and older had the highest percentile of death by suicide.
Wow, see, that makes no sense to me. Most guys are just kind of older generation or older people kind of have a fuck it attitude, where what's like eating away at them, where that age group would do that. Yeah. I'm curious about that. I don't, you know what I mean? Yeah. I don't.
Some of the suggestions for as to why was, loneliness, and possibilities of receiving diagnosis, which ties back into health and early detection and treatment for diseases. So get yourselves checked out, fellas. Like, we all have to do it. We all have to go. Women also have to go through uncomfortable things to get these tests done. And it's just, if you want to live, like, take a few precautions,
Sure. I just had a colonoscopy. Yeah.
Yeah, but you really liked that, right?
It wasn't. Yes, I got a coupon. Yeah, punch card.
Is your next one free, or do you have to do 10 of them before you get the free one?
Nope. It was. It's one of those things. Nobody wants to do that, but my parents hounded me, and again, I'm over the half-century mark, so I just made the appointment, did it, and went swimmingly well, and so I think a lot of things is fear. It's fear of being uncomfortable, also fear of prognosis. And so if you just go in and get it done, at least you'll have that peace of mind either way, to have caught something early, or clean bill of health, where, and mine was fantastic. So,
and especially if it turns out you have like cancerous polyps or whatever, like, they can be very easily removed, and then you're okay, as long as it's detected early enough. So things that are very preventable.
And then going under the anesthesia is just, I like that. When I had my wisdom teeth pulled at 18.
That was a fun experience for you.
It was cool. It felt, And then with this, it was the same way. You're awake. Next thing you're sleeping, and then you're up again. It's like, wow.
Well, and you're someone who hasn't really had a lot of experience with like drugs or heavy drug use, or even like alcohol. Like if you do drink, you don't drink to the point of like blackout. You've never been like that type of guy.
No,
So,
I guess.
so this is kind of like a new experience for you where you're just like,
Yeah,
out.
it was a fun, interesting thing. And when, again, to the health subject, I've been aware and active about my health since I was a teenager. And so to go from your teens to now 50 something, that's a long stretch of time of good habits, being conscious of what you're doing. So really this is for young men out there. Now's the time to be aware of what you're doing to yourself and taking care of yourself.
But I mean, it's also for men of any age.
Absolutely.
Because it's never
too late.
If you're still alive, it's not too late. You still have time to make changes, to be aware, to do something. You can do something right now. So
right on. And that something is to kind of care about yourself. Don't look external to find solutions or have somebody do something for you, but take charge and be accountable for the choices you're making. And they're hard. I mean, when you get in a rut of being comfortable, bad habits, just don't feel like you want to do things, that's you needing to step up and say, hey, it's not outside of me to take care of me. It's within you, and you have to be the one to do it. Yeah, you can't really care for others if you can't care for yourself.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. One of the reasons that is suggested that men are more likely to commit suicide is traditionally they are less likely to seek support for their problems and their health issues and their mental health issues. Let's discuss that. Why do you think men are so unwilling to look for help?
Oh, I think that's probably a very nature thing where we're the providers, the caregivers, and those things are kind of dissolving and not being that role that it used to be, right?
Do you think that is also maybe a source of insecurity for men? The playing field is becoming much more level with men and women now, and
Absolutely.
maybe they don't feel like they're wondering what their place is because a lot of women are we can do what the men can do.
And should. So yeah, so here, I mean, we're not talking that many years ago where it was the woman stayed at home, the man did everything. So what should be happening is men's health, mental health should be getting better. But first they have to recognize that, hey, all of us humans, no matter what you are, has the opportunity to be better, to be whatever role they want to be. So it's not that, oh, I'm lacking now, where's my place? Your place is the same. You should take care of yourself, provide for yourself, and yeah, it's not a what is that where your job isn't, you're not being fired. You just have to open your mind and perspective to stepping up for yourself and not worrying about is somebody coming up to that level. You should be happy that somebody else is, that the other sex, that whatever it is, has the opportunity and is taking that opportunity to be better themselves. So a lot of it seems like it just comes down to the men defining who they are and not letting old paradigms define who they are, or lack of whatever it is. Yeah.
So it seems like maybe men over as a whole kind of have these ideas and traditions that have kind of been passed down from them from previous generations about their role and the way that they're supposed to be. And so these traditions are being handed and passed down, and now is the time for them to break this tradition and kind of redefine for them what it means to be a man.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes. And again, however you were brought up, if you're alive now and an adult, you have at your fingertips the world as it is, right? So if they're experiencing the world in 2025, all these traditions, be it what they may, they're still coherent humans and can see that, oh, some of these things no longer fit. And so their perspective either changes or they break. Their confidence goes down. They feel shame or lack somewhere where it doesn't have to be that way. They just need to step up to the role in 2025 and be whoever, they need to be in 2025.
So these men need to kind of, and each this isn't like a one size fits all. Each journey is very personal to each human. I mean, this goes for men and women and everyone in between too. Like your own journey is personal. It's not a cookie cutter one size fits all. So um what are some like guides that people can use to like they maybe want to change and they want their situation to change and the way that they feel, what should they do, where should they start?
When it comes to finding your own purpose in life, it always is from within. You have to ask yourself the hard questions: who am I? Who do I want to be? And then start exploring. You've got to get information that will help you on your journey to kind of find your purpose. Books that help you kind of expand your mind and see different perspectives. A great place to start.
Okay, let's we've got a stack of books here. Let's talk about some of these books.
So for me, and this is, like you said, everybody's journey is a very personal one. And I have great sympathy for any person that is like feeling not optimal, not feeling like they're a part of whatever it is they want to be a part of. And I believe it starts with them as individuals finding their own place. If you can find that, if you can love yourself, if you can help yourself get to a place mentally where you're happy with yourself, would be a good way to put it.
Mm-hmm.
If you're always seeking like external praise or external groups to fit into, I think those things are temporary.
And that's really, I think, a difficult concept for men. I kind of learned a little bit about this reading a book called The Anxious Generation, which, if you are a human alive now, you should read this book.
By Jonathan Haidt.
Yes.
Yeah, we got another one here, The Coddling of the American Mind.
But it is fantastic. And in that, he explores all these different things about what is happening to people now,
like the culture. And Jonathan Haidt, if you don't know, is a social social psychologist. Mm-hmm. Studies the nature and behaviors of people, and we're in a really interesting time where we have data, but it's going to keep coming in with, like, speak to the anxious generation and what the study on that was.
Well, they did tons of research, and it is laid out very, very well in this book, and it's very easy to read and to understand. And one of the things they talk about is like the evolution of humanity and the differences between the evolution of men and women. And men have always kind of been like, they were in like these groups of hunters, and being a part of that pack and hunting together was like that was how their tribe like interacted together. And so being a part of that was really, really important for their development. And that is still, that is still something that is in our DNA, like in men's DNA. And so yeah, when you spoke to, being part of the groups, like it can, I think there are people who struggle where they don't have that pack, they don't have that group, and they feel almost lost without it. They don't know how to be their own person without being a part of that group.
Yes, yes. And again, I have sympathy for anybody going through stuff like that, but also have to kind of dismiss myself as somebody that could help, because I've always been like a lone wolf. I've been the guy who's comfortable being alone. There was never any, oh, I wish I fit in. I just didn't have that. So that's hard for me to. I mean, I've seen it, of course. I grew up.
But
now
you can't relate to it on like
it's tough for me to relate.
level.
Yes, and so I can't. I'm not dismissing that, but I can share some of my insights as the lone wolf who being alone is like nice. I like solitude. If I was a pack, I would be the guy hunting on my own for myself. Unless I had a family, then I would be hunting for them because I am also a provider.
And I can relate though to wanting to be a part of the group and being someone who felt like I didn't fit in. Like I struggled to like maintain friendships with people. I don't know if it was them or me or what. And I struggled with that, especially growing up in a large family, like and being with them and also feeling like I didn't quite fit in or belong there. And then that took me through a process where I had to learn how to be okay with being alone. And now I am. I do have my own pack though now, kind of. I've got you and we've got our children and we've got our group, but I feel like I'm now someone who evolved into being okay with that, not having the safety of the group. And I think a lot of that just stemmed from my own insecurities and being afraid to be alone and eventually realizing I was strong enough to be alone and stand on my own. I didn't need anyone to hold me up.
Yeah. And I think that's what we want just as a society, is for individuals to be at that level where they're competent, they're accountable for their own actions. And then when you have a group or a society of people like that, then humanity moves forward. And again, I know the team mentality or the pack mentality. I don't know where that sits today, though, with, again, a lot of these young men who don't really have personal connections, but they have these groups online on their phones or the podcasters they listen to, and they resonate with them, but they're still alone. So as much as they can hear somebody rant and rave and tell them and fire them up, they're at the end of the day, they're still alone, feeling not confident, not feeling like they're appreciated. So,
and this kind of just, adds to this epidemic that is happening to young men right now.
Yeah. So I would like to see more influencers, people who are telling just everybody that, hey, find your purpose. You are capable. You are good enough, and then like do some really, really deep like thinking and communicating with yourself. Find what you need to do to be better, but to also arm yourself with confidence and purpose. And again, the only way you can change a perspective is to like delve into a book, actually read a book, listen to a book. These quick sound bites on TikTok, Instagram, whatever the source is. It's not perspective changing, and I don't think most people on social media are looking for that. They're just looking for quick kind of okay, that whatever you think and feel is okay, and no information to change.
It's kind of like a quick like a dopamine hit. Like I just want one little hit. I don't want to fix the problem. I just want one little puff.
Yeah, yeah. Or they're hearing all these reasons that they attach themselves to as to why they feel a certain way. Oh, it's okay because this is why. It's this group who's holding me down, or it's this that's keeping me back.
And this is a common thread too of that seems to be occurring, is that put placing blame outward.
Yes, yes.
And placing blame on society and placing blame on women or whoever it is. They're putting this blame that there are these things in place that are holding them back. But where does reality lie?
Yeah, reality lies in the collective. Yeah, what the collective is where it's happening. Again, with the political situation, is just it's mind-boggling that there's two sides, and everybody knows that there's not two sides. But man, it's enough to use certain keywords or phrases, and boom, you've got this group. And on this side, it's the same thing, just a few things, and now you're here, and it's always here, because as especially in our country, we're a blend, and we were always this. But for some reason, man, things have been so divided, and it's because we're not lifting up the individuals. We're just nitpicking at these groups and saying these key phrases to ignite hate for each other, and nobody's standing back and saying, this makes no sense. Instead, they're saying, yes, I'm going to take what they're saying and beat up this side, and vice versa. There's no right or wrong side. There's no good or bad side. It's just a hodgepodge of kind of bullshit, which I can't believe that the average American isn't smart enough to stand up and
Everyone's falling
this is
for
ridiculous.
It.
Yeah.
Well, and the funny thing that you and I have had the pleasure of experiencing firsthand is we've actually got to listen to both sides of, people we know in real life that are on these opposite political spectrum, and they're on these opposite sides. But what's funny is they say the exact same things about the other side.
Pointing.
They say almost word for word the exact same things, but they're just saying it about the other person, and their outrage is the same, and they act like they're on completely opposite ends. But I think it's more of like it like curves up, and they're so close to each other. They don't even realize it. And then if you attempt to tell them they're saying the same things, they do not want to hear that. They're not open to listening, to looking objectively at their own, at their own outrage and hatred and disgust for these other people. Like they can't turn it back on themselves.
And I would say that and they don't have this disgust for like individuals. They're using rhetoric where it's groups, it's lumps, it's like nameless things, but which within those groups are individual people. And I don't think that they would have a problem with somebody sitting in front of them that's a part of this group. It's only as a collective where they just get outraged by it.
Is this these very like, black and white groups, this good and evil, yes and no, these groups, is that where young men are becoming lost? They're losing their sense of individuality, and they're taking on these personas of the groups that they're immersing themselves in.
Yeah. Yep. Yes. It's a like neutrality, being able to empathy, to be able to see and feel what whoever it is you're communicating with, at least have that be a question: is where are they coming from? But those kind of discussions aren't happening. They're going right to inflame, blame, and there's no reconciliation or even coming to an understanding of another's viewpoint. And how can anything move forward if that's how can the health of anybody get better when it's always this instead of
Well, and like the thing about like coming, trying to understand someone else's perspective is, in the end, you don't have to agree with what the person thinks or says, or the point that they're trying to make. You don't have to agree with them, but you can still see that person as a human being and come to an understanding, just like you said, of where they're coming from, because things aren't, there's so many shades of gray, and that's what makes us human. And it's almost to the point where these groups dehumanize each other.
makes it easier to get a certain faction on board with what you're trying to sell.
And I've seen people attempt to, belittle the men's mental health crisis and dehumanize these men. They have no, and it's, I would say it's primarily women that are doing this, and they have no sense of empathy for men. And I can understand where these women are coming from. I can understand why they're saying that, but that is such a disgusting and small way to be. Like, there are men that you care about and you love in your life. I know that there are. How could you say that men's mental health is not important? Like, there isn't one person or one group of people that is more important than the other. We are all just humans, and we are all fighting to stay alive, all of us at different levels, and with different obstacles for all of us. But it's still the same, that we all matter, we're all important.
And just because like awareness is brought to the attention of a certain group, it shouldn't mean, and people shouldn't take it as an attack on who they are
people,
or what they are. And it's kind of defeating the purpose of being better. It's we wouldn't be in this situation if there could just be an understanding that, guess what, we're all individuals, everybody has their own beliefs, they like what they like, and the other person doesn't have to, and it works both ways. And so if you want to have a strong belief in something, understand that you should give the other person the same respect to do that too. And then that's okay. It can stop there. It doesn't have to be this battle of you must come to my side or right. It's hey, this is who I am and what I believe in. You are you, and at the end of the day, okay, you're a human, I'm a human. Shake hands, hug, love each other for who you are, because nobody wants the world to just be one type. That's no fun. That's boring.
There is historically just one group of people who wanted everyone to be one type, and we all don't like them.
No, that's horrible. Shouldn't. Yeah, that's. We're better than that as humans. And I think it comes down to just us as individuals living that life of kind of mutual respect. Even if someone else isn't doing that, doesn't mean you have to also not do that. You should stand up for what's right.
Yes, and stand up for the rights of your neighbors. And even if you don't like them or agree with their lifestyle choices or who they choose to love or anything, but they, they
Freedom. We still want freedom.
freedom. Yes, yes, we do. We want the right to choose, and I want that for everyone.
Everybody, yeah.
And I don't understand why more people don't.
Yeah, it's interesting, and it's a good social kind of thing of what's happening with a lot of the just the social media and what people's feeds, the news sources, how strange, like news, and if that's even a word anymore, because what's happening isn't news. It's this feed of just outrageous things to tickle those people that are on that side, and keep them going, keep them coming back,
engaged.
but also keep them not just engaged but enraged at anybody that's watching something different.
Engaged and enraged.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hashtag engaged and enraged.
So I heard a term the other day that I had never heard before. I think we should discuss this because this is men's mental health gone to an extreme level that is strange and frightening. I heard the term incel, and I didn't know what that was. I'd never heard that. I tend to thumbcock sometimes, but that is something that is not in my algorithm, I guess.
It's a terrorist thing, right? That's what I know of it from the wars, the incel factions.
Okay. That's not what they meant in this instance. Not terrorists, no. Incel is apparently a term coined by a certain type of men who refer to them. It's two words mixed together. It's involuntarily celibate. Incel. And I thought that was horrifying.
So they're not getting laid, and that's not their choice.
They're not getting laid, and it's not by choice. And I just thought that the fact that there is even a term for something like that is very telling of what
the perspective or mindset,
to some of the men in this country, and how desperately it seems like they need guidance of some sort, new type of guidance, because that is, I thought that was very fucked up.
That is fucked up. It's a strange, incomprehensible, but it speaks to whoever these people are. So they're missing something. One would be, I would say, self-confidence. Nobody says involuntary celibate, right? Because that means they're not having sex. They're not able to meet a woman.
They're not able to attract a partner.
Where does that come from?
Well, and then to elaborate a bit further, it sounds like these men typically are blaming women and society for their celibacy,
their situation. Okay, yeah. See, definitely a new term. Something that
it's not like a real thing. It's like a thing that I guess has occurred through social media and probably through Reddit threads. I think a lot of men spend social media, more women are kind of drawn into that aspect, and Reddit is the place for men. I've even heard our 14-year-old son talk about Reddit threads that he goes through. He doesn't go through social media per se, but for some reason Reddit is the place where men are going to talk. So
interesting. Well, this is a communication problem. This is an issue with these men who, because guess what? What teenager wasn't involuntarily celibate. Right? That doesn't, it's not a thing. It's like, but I also Tinder wasn't back then. So you got all this weird social things around sex where, yeah, you have to be able to talk to somebody. You have to be able to open this line of communication with another human being before you get to the sex. It's not you're not owed sex. You have to go and be somebody who another human wants to have sex with. So you're not involuntarily celibate.
It's like you're sabotaging
Yeah,
yourself.
you have a twisted view on what I guess sex is, maybe. And then that's only in my opinion. But if there's people that aren't having sex, then you're doing something wrong, or you're not doing something, which means
and they're not having sex. And Professor Scott Galloway, he has a lot of research on this and about this happening to young men right now. So
here's probably a lot of why this is happening. You have a lot of we have a society today where a lot of just people aren't getting out as much, right? You had COVID, that debacle where people were forced inside. Not saying that before that people were getting out as much, but the younger generation, they're not getting out. They're not putting themselves into situations where they're meeting people.
This is actually something that, and they touch on this in The Anxious Generation, and something that has been occurring for decades now. And it originally started back in the 80s, where all this like national panic started to become reality, because before that, like, kids were sent out to play and they were unsupervised. And granted, there were things, of course, that happened, like, of course, but all this, panic about kids being kidnapped and killed and all these terrible things. And mothers started saying, encouraging their children to stay indoors, to not go out. And then that was right upon the dawn, the cusp of video games. So they had video games to keep them indoors, and the parents thought, okay, my kids are safe because they're inside. And things were, they didn't get really, really bad or anything. They were fine. Things were kind of, levels were kind of up and down or whatever. But then the internet happens. And that's when things really started to change, because kids were already going outside less, having less risky play, which is important for human development. And then parents also had this false sense of like, my kids are inside, they're safe, but they're not safe on the internet. They absolutely are not. And if your children have this unlimited access to the World Wide Web, they're not safe. They absolutely are not.
Was it in that book where they kind of talked of that, like growing up for me, we would literally go out to play and you would come home for dinner. Mm-hmm. So your parents didn't know where you were. They didn't have a beacon on you or a phone. And I'm talking at kindergarten. When I was in kindergarten, we actually walked to school, a group of kids. Walk to school, come home. Parents weren't wondering, did they make it? They just
assumed that you got there.
You got out, you played, you did risky things, and that's very important for the development of just the human interactions and the human brain and spirit too. And also along that lines, the 80s, where I remember as a kid, there was a paper boy close to where we were that got abducted, and I don't think they ever found him.
I think he was the first.
Johnny Gosh was his name.
He was the first kid to be put on a milk carton, I think.
Okay, right? Sure. Correct? And at that time, I had a morning paper route, so it wasn't one of those things where they said, "Hope you can't do this anymore." Nope, you get out.
Well, you were lucky that your parents were of the mind that to continue to let you do your paper route? Because it sounds like your paper route, like really set, like having that job that you had to work so hard, really set a foundation for you that you were able to build upon.
I firmly believe that if you had the youth experience something like that, they would, you'd have a whole bunch of people that were way better off. And what I'm talking about is a paper route. And when I was 11 years old, I got up every morning, 5, 6 o'clock, every morning, 7 days, 365 days a year, and had to get up, ride my bike, and deliver papers, which was a pretty sizable route, all the way up till I was 16. So that kind of accountability, right? You've got to get up at 11 as a youngster and do these things, but you also learn.
Get up at 11?
No, I was 11 years old
Oh.
at when I started the paper out.
It's like 11 a.m. isn't very early.
But what 11-year-old today is doing anything remotely similar to that intensive real world experience where you had to get up, you were accountable, you had to deliver these papers.
It was just expected.
You had to collect money from these people, and the exercise I got was fantastic. So yeah, if you could have something that would mimic that today for children, man, how different things would be.
Yes, unfortunately, the way things are structured now, it's almost we're at a point where we have wanted to create less obstacles, perhaps, for our children. We want to make things easier for them, and in doing so, we have done a disservice to the human race, because children need they need to come up against things. They need obstacles. They need to
figure things out on their own.
Problem solving skills. They also need, time, unsupervised play with their friends, like in real life, not online. They need so they can socially learn how to just interact with people and how to solve problems. They need to be able to experience saying something, hurtful or offensive to someone, and then
feel the reaction.
See and feel their reactions, and then work through the process of reconciling with that person, and being realizing, saying, I'm sorry, or being able to look back and be like, wow, that thing that I said to my friend was really inappropriate, and then they need to come up against these things so they can learn, so they can grow into humans, adults that are higher functioning and that are stable.
Yeah.
And the mental health crisis in this country isn't just with men; it is with women too. However, today we are specifically talking about men, their health, their mental health. And yes.
And so the incel are those that aren't getting out. You have to get out and at least do the work. I mean, work ethic. You have to do the work. You can't expect to get laid but not putting work in. It's not a give me. It's this thing which is important to humanity, where there's an exchange. You're not owed anything. You have to appreciate another person. You have to be able to talk about them, show that you are somebody worthy of that thing. Which leads me to another book, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. This is a fantastic book. Again, I was able to come across a lot of literature when I was a teenager, because I had massive problems as far as confidence and anxiety, speaking, talking to girls. Get out of here. It was horrifying for me. And so I went to the library, card catalog, and just started searching things. And I came across a whole psychology thing that helped me understand life, the mind, and then work on things.
And that, to hear that is so, it's just so crazy to hear about some of the some of the issues you had when you were a kid, being so shy to the point where it was almost like disabling to you, where you couldn't hardly function. And because I know you now as this very charismatic person who can talk to anybody, who is so friendly and so confident, you really exude this confidence. And it's so interesting to hear that that is not something that came to you naturally. You went out, you worked for it, and especially as a child, that is incredible, because when I was a kid, I was an idiot. Like, I didn't think about anything, especially not how to like solve any of my own problems. Like, I was well into adulthood when I started thinking about that. So that's really awesome to hear that. Yeah, how you went out there and worked for it.
And I would suggest in anyone, Men's Health, if you are having questions or don't know why you feel a certain way, don't look for external things to answer those questions. You've got to figure out things. Read books on psychology and how the mind works, and then put in the work and effort to overcome these obstacles. For me, I knew that, like, being so uncomfortable around people or talking, again, I loved being alone, but it took a bit to get over that. And so you seek out things that are uncomfortable. And that's what's missing today. Everybody can hide behind a keyboard or a phone.
So easy to just stay at home
and have these puffed up feelings. But when they get exposed, then they're deflated, because guess what? Real life is different than sending a text. Seeing someone's reaction when you're speaking to them, totally different than short form texting. You're just not getting, you're missing a lot if that's where you're at. You have to get out of your comfort zone and work on communicating, talking to people, asking questions. That's a huge thing. If you don't know how to talk to people, this book basically tells you ask questions, because people love to talk about themselves. And then along that path, you learn that, oh, okay, I do care. I want to hear what this person is up to. And maybe they'll reciprocate and ask you something. If not, that's okay. Keep asking questions and keep doing that with as many people as you can. And that's how you overcome things. And if you're involuntarily celibate, you will overcome that as well. You don't have to be an incel. It's pretty easy.
Yeah. All you have to do to, get a closer relationship with a woman anyways is, ask her questions about herself. Like, and not just like little like bullshitty questions like, what's your favorite color? Like,
it can start there, but to truly, what's happening to humanity where these things are just kind of going away?
I think definitely being able to be behind the screen, it makes everything very two-dimensional. So it
is two-dimensional.
There's no depth when you're attempting to connect with another person through a screen. I would say it's very, very two-dimensional in most cases. I think there are people that can connect through the screens, but I think at some point they make like real connections in real life too. Like,
because otherwise it's so devoid of like emotion, unless you're like a world-class writer where you can really have some prose to convey how you're feeling. It's hard to do with words. It's body language.
And there's so much more to it too, because I've experienced this personally, where I knew people in real life that were just insufferable. They were not easy to get along with. They were hard to listen to. Their behaviors and their attitude was just didn't care for it. Online, though, it was like they were this different person, and it's very strange to see those two things coexist, because it's like you may have those thoughts and feelings, behind the screen or whatever, but I know you in real life and I know what type of person you are in the flesh. And it's just very strange to see those two things
Yeah, yeah.
existing.
And where, so that's a huge topic. I would say that's also a health and mental health topic, because if you have these two versions of you, right? One of them is really you, one of them isn't. And that's a kind of a confusing thing for not only those that are around you, but for you yourself. You're battling something if you're putting all this effort into trying to appear a certain way online, but in real life you're this other way. That's something you've got to reconcile with, or
Yeah,
there'll be
it's
consequences.
kind of like Daredevil.
Yeah.
He tried so hard to have like this normal life where he had his friends and he was this lawyer, and then behind the scenes he was Daredevil, and he was constantly just at odds with himself. He could not reconcile like both of those lives together.
Right, and throw in religion, and then you just got a fucked up superhero because what a losing battle.
We just binge watched Daredevil, so it's relevant.
Men's health. That's what this is about. Yes. What can a man do to take care of themselves? They can be aware of whatever they're feeling. So if you're feeling a certain way, address it, because it's real.
Okay,
Whatever.
So address your feelings, and then I would say maybe even go a little bit deeper and to not only address them, but to start questioning, asking yourselves questions like, why am I feeling this way? Like,
and that takes on many levels of personal introspection, upbringing, belief systems that don't mesh with reality, so many different things. But you address them, and then you go to the next step of asking yourself, what can I do to help? Exercise has always been something that I've done as a youth, and it's helped me tremendously in many ways. One is how we feel affects our mental state. It can be visual, it can be whatever. Some people have weight problems, so those will weigh on you. But what exercise does is it gives you these goals of starting somewhere and then doing push-ups or pull-ups. And maybe you can't do one of either of those, but if you start, you will be able to. So you're starting to kind of build this tolerance up for doing things that you weren't able to do before. That gives you a boost in confidence. Do this long enough, and you start to rack up all these wins. Oh, I can now do 10 pull-ups. That's a big deal, to go from 0 to 10.
mm-hmm.
And what side effects? You're going to feel better. You're going to look better. And the endorphins and all the studies with what exercise does for you, it's amazing. And that's good for your mental state. Getting off your butt and moving is one of the first goals to do if you're in a bad place, because it's tough to be kind of self-defeating when you're up and doing things. Going for walks, start simple, do things that you can do. Know where you are, but know that the key to this better place for you is to start a health journey. Physically, do physical things, because that's the easy part. Mentally, that's tougher, because it takes more of, it's asking more of you to go on that journey by reading a book.
Well,
right?
And to be someone who is willing to change your perspective, change your mind, change your opinions. And if you're not willing to do those things, then no work can be done.
Check your something at the door. Yeah, if you want to get better, you've got to kind of release the things that you currently hold to be true and facts. And I think a lot of those things you will realize aren't even your kind of they're not even you. It's what you're hearing on the social media. It's what the news is giving you, and you're just taking it and making it your identity. So if you want your own identity, you've got to kind of
let
go of all that.
Of it.
Yeah, you got to build yourself your own shield of that will deflect the bullshit that's coming at you. And if you're going to let that stuff come in, let it come in from all sides. Then at least you'll be able to have a central, neutral view where you won't be so polarized, which is defeating you mentally. That's why getting all hyped up and getting on one side doesn't feel good. It might for a second, it's temporary. It's temporary, relief from your dire situation. So you want to build your own identity that is devoid of all these influences, so that you can be you and you can get healthy and happy.
So I think maybe one of the books we have here that can teach a person how to find their own identity would be Joe Dispenza's Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. Now, for me personally, I read this book and it was one of the instrumental things I needed to move past my alcoholism. Mm-hmm. I did not know how to function without alcohol, and I did not know how to even ask the questions or deal with the person that I was. I read that fucking book and it changed my life.
Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, How to Lose Your Mind and Create a New One. I loved discovering Dispenza, especially after 20 years and all the other books that I've read. This brought pretty much the same thing, but with a new twist and a new, with all the just information they have now on the study of the brain.
Yes, they do a lot of brain study, a lot of neurological things. They can talk scientifically about what is happening to your brain, and it's so fucking interesting. I was just completely taken in by it. I could not believe I didn't know any of the things that he discusses it's insane.
It's an exciting book. And when you read any book, you have to be open to taking the information. You can't be that closed-minded person and read it and then either leave it all at the door because you don't believe that. You have to be
open. You have to be willing to apply it to your own life. And
you've got to recognize if you're at a place in your life that you're not happy and comfortable with, then you have no other choice but to kind of release what's brought you to that place and then start fresh. And don't let, what are some of the phrases? Oh, this is just who I am. Or what are some other ones?
That's the one. This is just what I believe. That's how I was raised.
Yeah, all these limiting things which give you free reign to carry on with your life as it currently is. And if you don't like that, then you have to get over that. And also those things that are said make no sense because they say them at all stages of life. When I don't know about everybody else, but me as a teenager, to me in my 20s, my 30s, my 40s, even my 50s, I am not that same person. No. And man, that would suck for anybody around me if it was. Yes. Now, also, I know people that I grew up with who are the exact same. So let
me ask, do they seem very happy today when you see them or talk to them?
I would say nobody is. If you show me one person that as a teenager and then any other later part in their life, if their perspective is the same, their life isn't that good. It just isn't.
I could not imagine being just the same forever. I feel like I did have a period of time where I was holding on to this version of myself that I thought I was, and I was saying the same things and I was doing the same things, and I was fucking miserable. I really struggled to just be alive because I didn't realize it was because I held on to all these really just negative things. And yeah, and so now I am constantly committed to changing and evolving and always being very open to changing my mind and my opinion, and being very open and welcoming to people telling me like, hey, you're wrong. And it's like, am I? It's like,
I'll look into that.
I'm gonna look into that because I love learning that I'm wrong about stuff, because for me that just makes me feel like I'm still learning and changing, and I think that feels really good. Like staying stuck in one position forever, like that feels fucking terrible.
Well, and as you know, like I don't like team things. I've never been one to like get on one side of
Yes.
anything. I haven't allowed my brain to do that. But also like in the framework of this is who I am. A lot of people that say that generally keep the same company. And so you'll have factions or groups of kids that you went to high school with where they'll keep those connections throughout their life, but they'll do the same things. And so if you're around a bunch of people with that same mentality, you can't change. You're actually you're hurting yourself to growth. And that's why I'm glad I'm kind of a lone wolf, where I never felt that need to keep a connection with someone just to like fit in or be, because it didn't make sense. I didn't enjoy it, and I enjoyed having other connections with other people that see things differently or can actually give you some good sage advice. Then you can get better.
Yes, if you keep
Habits.
if you keep having, the same people, that you say you've got your group of friends or whatever, and they're the ones you go to complain about like your shitty life or the fact that you can't, find a partner or whatever, and they're going to keep just feeding you back the same bullshit, and you just keep going through this circle of giving shit to each other, and nothing changes. How can anything change if you're doing the same thing and saying the same things for years and years?
You can't. So yeah, get rid of excuses. Anytime you feel yourself blaming a situation, a person, a group of people, stop yourself and like you said, look in. What is your part in that? And it may mean getting rid of a group of friends. Sometimes even your family members aren't good for you to become better. So you have to limit your exposure to them, or just kind of not take what they say to heart.
Yes, and that kind of brings into the discussion emotional intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we have a book about that here, but that's also something that is worth diving into if you're interested in changing. If you're depressed, if you struggle with depression or anxiety, or if you get really triggered about like everybody's bullshit, and you don't know anything about emotional intelligence, that's something worth looking into also.
Absolutely. And that's basically controlling your emotions towards things.
And control kind of sounds like a very rigid kind of thing. That
an awareness of your emotions. Emotions are great. There's hate, there's love, there's happy, there's sad. But when you notice that things are yanking your chain to these high levels of emotion, whether it's way up here or way down here, you're not in charge of them, and your emotional intelligence isn't as high. I would say when you're able to take all of them and then look at them in the scope of I hear them, I understand them, but I'm not going to go to these places. And you don't have to either. It's a choice.
Yes, yes, it is. And I think Dispenza touches on that because these emotions, going to these extreme levels of especially like anger and rage, also sadness and grief, and like frequently
They're draining.
feeling these things, it has physical effects on you, and you actually become addicted to these emotions, to the
When you're not
to
here,
the
here.
endorphins that
Yeah.
get released inside your body. There is a chemical reaction that happens within you, and these being at these levels all the time can make you sick physically, and it really affects your mental health. So if you are someone who is finding yourself disgusted and angry and outraged all the fucking time, that is a good place for you to start exploring if you have like mental health problems. And Dispenza touches on that and lays it out like chemically what is happening to you. So that's
And that makes perfect sense.
it does. When I read it, because I experienced those things too, but when I read it, it made so much sense to me and kind of equipped me with the tools that I needed to start recognizing, like, I'm feeling triggered, I'm feeling angry, I'm getting to this level, and even just being able to realize it's happening while it's happening was enough for me to like pull it back down and be like, this isn't even a real thing. And reading other books also taught me like where all that stuff came from, and realized that all of those opinions that I had about those things weren't even mine.
Yeah.
I wasn't born with those opinions. Someone else planted these little seeds in me.
Yeah. So for mental health, be aware of who's controlling your emotions. If you're watching something, hearing something, thumb cocking on something, and it makes you hear, you're not in charge. And that will lead to just a very bad place. And mental health wise, it will go, especially if it's happening every day, which we can tell it is. It's all these emotions all day long. And man, at the end of the day, that's taxing. Where watch it, take it in, but kind of keep your needle right here in the center where you're in charge, where you're taking it and you're hearing it, but it's not taking you to this place of here or here. And if you want endorphins, exercise, go for a walk, get some fresh air, do some push-ups, listen to music. Yeah, it could be any music.
Learn how to cook good food.
Cooking food. Yeah, enjoy life.
That's a whole nother topic.
It is.
Nutrition. Oh boy.
Which is important for physical and mental health, not according to my wife. But in the case of this looming thing that is here and happening with men's health, find yourself in a place where you can do things and see things to be better.
One way that you can kind of move, if you're wanting to move forward with some of this, if you're hearing what we're saying and you're saying to yourself, I want to be better, I'm unhappy, and I want to move forward. And one of the things that I think is instrumental to that is learning how to journal. And traditionally, I feel like that's been something that's been pushed more onto women, kind of. That's, I don't know. I'm sure there are plenty of men in the world who journal, but I would say overall, like, I don't know who any of them are, the men that are journaling, but it's so important because you can't explore these places in your mind if you aren't writing it down. And it is difficult to come to certain conclusions if you can't write these things down.
So you would recommend them getting a notebook, and then at times of these heightened emotions, write them down?
Absolutely, absolutely. If you, during yes, these periods
Express what they're feeling on paper.
if they're very angry, if they're very outraged, don't fucking write it on social media, because all you're going to get is people, you're going to get these outside influences responding, and that is not the way forward to
that almost
help.
has a negative effect.
It does.
If people put this out there and then they get these likes, and it keeps them in this cycle of, oh shit, I need more likes.
And people who may agree with you and are enabling more of that behavior, you want to stop these behaviors. So if you're feeling this way, or if you're feeling very, very fucking depressed, I would suggest getting out a journal, something to write on, physically write. If you struggle with like writing, I guess, like, type on something, but do it, and write down exactly what you're feeling, all these things that are coming out of you. Even just the act of that is very like cathartic.
Yeah.
It is. It feels so good to get it out, and
so you can work through it. I mean, if you want to change, you have to put in effort, and writing in a journal isn't that hard to do. And if you're not willing to even do that, then you're not there yet. You're not there for wanting help. We don't want you just ringing a bell for attention. We want you to ring that bell so that you can get better. We want you to want to take charge of your life, and we want you to be healthy physically and mentally. And they do go hand in hand.
They do. And it is important. And I've seen a lot of things that say that, that men aren't important, that their health and their mental health isn't important. This is just not true. This is absolutely not true. Like, we all matter.
Yeah, and we want you help, and reach out to us. We'll share more information. We'll be ears to listen, but you've got to want to take action. We will give you steps to get better. We will give you easy, workable plan to overcome wherever it is you are.
Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me and to talk with everyone about men's health and mental health, because it's so important. And so thank you very much.
Yes, it was great talking to you. I hope somebody sees this and feels like they can take control of their situation, because that's what we want to do, is empower people, know that they're important, know that they matter, and to help them just gain control of their emotions, their health, their mental health.
And just live happy, fulfilling lives.
Yes, to make the world a better place.
One individual at a time. All right, we'll see you guys next time.